Hey guys, I'm just heading home, so I have my phone fixed out of my reach, and I wanted to do a couple final thoughts that I had from court today. I think a few things are working in our favor, and that's that the government is showing how much of a bully it is, not just to the political prisoners, but also to people like the attorneys and now also the media. So in court today, the prosecution made the wrong choice of going after not only the cell phone usage of the attorneys in the courtroom, which is a very good thing, that the prosecution is getting even more ugly, especially at a time like right now with what Mumford is going through, because that's just causing people to be more sympathetic to the defendant's case. So one of the things that the prosecution brought up is they said that they wanted to restrict cell phone usage within the court. All the defense attorneys are allowed to have cell signal or wireless, so that they can access any files that they don't have stored on the computers themselves and that they need to access remotely. The prosecution, it was Barrows who stood up and said that he felt this privilege was severely abused the last trial, and that he wanted to move the court, petition the court, to restrict this from happening. So I was watching Conrad with OPB and Maxine with Oregon Live, the Oregonian. I was watching their responses to this, and they were not pleased when the prosecution said the reason they wanted cell communication and wireless to be restricted this next case is because the defense attorneys were using their internet to put out tweets to the public, which were then transferred to the media, and that things were being publicized as to events that were going on in the court that were not meant to be publicized. And he was referring to Schindler, Ken Menbach's attorney, who did tweet a lot of what was going on in the case, but he in no way was doing this during the actual trial itself. He was doing this on breaks and after hours. Now, thankfully, the judge knew that, and the judge said to him, I think you're bringing up two separate issues right now. I think you're bringing up, you're frustrated that there is internet connection and cell service for these defense attorneys, but the complaint you're bringing up is about things that the defense attorneys did in their own time, off the clock. And she said that's a separate issue, and we're not going to discuss that right now. But when Barrows brought up the fact that he was accusing Schindler of tweeting during the trial, Maxine and Conrad both turned to each other, and I could see them talking back and forth, and Maxine was saying, during the trial? Not during the trial. And Conrad was agreeing with her back and forth discussing this. Then the other thing the prosecution said was, and on top of that, we felt it was incredibly inappropriate that the jurors were able to show the media the juror note, and that the media was allowed to publicize that. Again, Maxine turned to Conrad and was rolling her eyes and shrugging her shoulders like, are you serious? This is a public court. This is a public court. Right now, the media has petitioned the court for the names of the jurors. So they're in litigation, and they're deciding on whether or not they're going to give out the names of these jurors. So the prosecution is sitting here complaining that too much information is going out to the media, and information is going out that they don't want going out, like what I said on my recording earlier. The daily transcripts were being reported, and the media was sharing those. All at the same time, the court is litigating the idea of giving out the names of the jurors. So I mean, talk about talking out of both sides of your mouth. At one area, you want the ins and outs of the court hearing to be kept secret, but then the other side, you're saying, well, we need to expose the names of the jurors because they're no longer in harm's way because the trial is over now. Total joke. So on that topic, the prosecution, I'm sorry, the defense asked the judge if she was considering giving out the identities this time around, and she said that because it's still in litigation for the first time around, she couldn't make a decision, but that each party could put in their requests and petition the court one way or another, and she'd make a decision. And the defense was concerned that it was going to make it look like to the jurors like they were being put in harm's way if depending on how it was explained to them when they tell them that they're not going to release their names. The judge says, the only reason I gave the first jurors for being anonymous was because of all the public attention that this case had drawn and all of the protesters that had come out front to show their support to the Bundys. And we didn't want the jurors to feel intimidated, so we kept their names sealed. However, the trial is over and the concerns are now over, and so we are litigating whether or not it's appropriate to release their names. The joke about that is, first of all, in this case, nobody was injured except for by the government, who drew their guns and fired multiple shots, but 3 of which went into the back of Lavoy Finicum when his hands were raised. So the fact that they would think they need to keep these jurors safe from the protesters that are out front handing out constitutions, talking about people's rights and liberties, and they think that we are possibly going to do something to intimidate or threaten the jurors. I mean, get real. I mean, figure out who is on the threatening side, and then you'll see there's no need to be protecting the jurors from anybody who is on the side of standing up for constitutional rights, because that goes against the very idea of the United States Constitution. So anyway, I think those were the 2 main things I wanted to bring up, that I really saw that the prosecution was pissing off the media and showing their hand, which is one of complaining and whining and deception. And I saw the responses from Maxine and Conrad, and I saw the eyes being rolled, and I really believe that at this point the government is making themselves more enemies than they are friends. And I think it's absolutely beautiful, because you know, it's really difficult when you're the only one in a specific group saying, hey, there's corruption, there's abuse going on in the jails, they're giving out trumped up charges, they're harassing the people, and you have attorneys representing these people. But then when you have an attorney actually become one of the people experiencing that, and then now you have the media starting to feel attacked by the prosecution, and they know they didn't do anything wrong by sharing that juror's note. Again, this is a public trial, and the juror's note was public knowledge, public information, what the jurors were concerned about. So anyway, I think that it's great. I think the prosecution is pissing in everybody's pot at this point, and eventually it's all going to get thrown back in their face. They're wasting our tax dollars on this ridiculous conspiracy charge. You can't trespass in a building where you were never given a trespass warning on. You can't trespass in a public facility and have them think that it warrants being shot or incarcerated for a year because you trespassed in a public facility, not a government facility, a public facility. Although government facility definitely sounds more scary and sounds like a much, much bigger charge. But that wasn't what the case was. It was a public facility that they were in, protesting their government for redress of grievance. And you know, they're bringing all these ridiculous charges that they're not gonna succeed. And in the meantime, we're gonna get a whole bunch of attorneys and hopefully a whole bunch of media by the end of this that's on our side. I felt like I was able to have a conversation at the end with Conrad and Maxine briefly regarding the tweeting and the note that was passed. And I felt like we were on the same side when we were talking, and that felt really good. I hope that they report things accurately and that they see that the bullies right now are the ones living on government paychecks, sitting there in their fancy ironed pressed suits, looking like they're dressed to the hilt on our money. And I don't know, I just feel like they're showing their hand, and I think it's great. And as much as doubt creeps in that this is the government we're dealing with, as far as the verdict goes, doubt keeps coming in that we're going to win this. But I really believe we're going to win this, and we're going to have another not guilty verdict, and the government's going to have mud and a little bit of piss on their face at the end of this that they dished out to everybody else. So that's all. I just wanted to update on those last few thoughts so I didn't forget them, and I don't have time to type all that out. So that's all. Love you guys. Bye.